Morning, everyone. The House continues to focus on the people's priorities, from growing our economy to holding Washington accountable. I was pleased that yesterday a federal court ruled that the House does, in fact, have standing to challenge one of the president's unilateral actions with regard to Obamacare. I cannot overstate how big a victory this is for limited government and our first principles. Time and again, the president has chosen to ignore the will of the American people and to rewrite laws on his own without a vote of the Congress. It's not the way our system of government was designed to work. If this president can get away with making his own laws, future presidents will have the ability to do so as well. This is an unprecedented challenge by the House, and one the administration tried to avoid at all cost. So this victory sends a strong message that no one, especially no president, is above being held accountable to the Constitution. Republicans continue to do all that we can do to stop the president's nuclear agreement with Iran. By putting party first, the Democrats are ignoring the will of the American people and avoiding the judgment of history. But this debate is far from over, and frankly, it's just beginning. This is a bad deal with decades-long consequences for the security of the American people and our allies. And we'll use every tool at our disposal to stop, slow, and delay this agreement from being fully implemented. It's now been nearly 2 months since I called for hearings into the horrific abortion practices embraced by Planned Parenthood and other organizations. There are now 3 committees with active investigations underway. The Energy and Commerce Committee is focused on Planned Parenthood's activities. The Oversight and Government Reform Committee is looking into how Planned Parenthood gets its funding. And the Judiciary Committee is looking at the Justice Department's enforcement of the law and had its first hearing this week. Our goal here is to get to the bottom of this, and above all, to protect the unborn. And lastly, let me just say that I've been reading all these stories about the challenges that we face here. This leadership comes with challenges. That's how it's been for me. That's how it's been for Republican and Democrat leaders long before me. And the real challenges are the ones the American people are facing every day, trying to get ahead and trying to take care of their own families. If we make that our focus, we can continue to get things done for the people that we serve.
Speaker Boehner, I was at the rally yesterday about the Iran deal, and there were people with signs that said Boehner, McConnell, repugnant traitors. You had Ted Cruz calling you out. Donald Trump said that you weren't doing enough, as did Sarah Palin. What do you make of all these Republican candidates for president like Ted Cruz and Donald Trump and Scott Walker running against you and Mitch McConnell?
Listen, a lot of presidential candidates out there, they're saying a lot of things, and if I started to comment on what they were saying, I would spend all my time doing that. I'm focused on doing my job here, and I'm focusing on the priorities of the American people.
Does criticism bother you particularly?
No.
Mr. Speaker, how are we to perceive this, very quick turnaround on how you are handling the Iran bill, and in particular moving from a bill to disapprove now to approve, and that's not to be perceived a messaging bill, especially when you're going to have Democrats on the spot on 9/11 voting to approve of this deal, and then folks across the street at the NRCC turn back and say, this guy voted to approve this on 9/11.
Listen, yesterday we went to our members. Obviously, there are concerns about whether the president complied with the Corker-Cardin Iran Review Act. And clearly our members do not believe the president has complied with the law. Now, if the Senate is able to move a bill, we want to preserve our right to move a motion of disapproval. And as a result, what we'll vote on this week is a motion to approve the Iran Nuclear Act, which clearly will not pass.
But how is this not a messaging vote now? Because that was talked about prior to July.
Well, this is about holding every member accountable for their vote. You've heard me stand at this podium for over a year trying to do everything I could to stop a bad deal with Iran. And frankly, I can tell you that the deal that we have is worse than anything I could have ever imagined over the last year. And so holding members accountable is an important part of our job, and they're going to have to vote. Yes.
Speakers, in the latest annual report by Planned Parenthood, it said that it did 327,653 abortions in fiscal 2013. Should taxpayers be forced to fund a group that does more than 300,000 abortions a year?
Taxpayers should not fund abortions, period.
With the Iran back and forth, you seemed a little bit surprised by how your members reacted. Does leadership expect to be surprised with the CR and highway as well?
Listen, trying to manage 435 independently elected members is never easy. But yesterday we laid a plan before the members. They had concerns about the plan, and we sat down and worked with our members to come up with a new plan. And frankly, there's wide support for it.
Two-part question. Do you believe the president's complied with Corker-Cardin, and do you believe that what you're doing is going to get him to hand over whatever you're seeking?
If you read the provisions in Corker-Cardin, it's pretty clear that the president has not complied, because it makes clear that any side agreements, any other type of an agreement, that including those that do not directly involve us, must be turned over as part of this. And so I do not believe that he's complied.
If you're voting here to say he hasn't complied, so the clock hasn't started ticking, but then the next vote you're taking is to approve the deal, so that you're essentially saying the clock has started ticking because you're voting to approve it.
No, that is not correct. Out of a conversation between the House and Senate in July, the agreement was there would be a motion to disapprove, and that's what the House and Senate would vote on. We're going to preserve that option. Whether we use it or not, I think it's too early to tell. We're going to preserve that option. But we're not going to let members off the hook. It's a bad deal. And members ought to, if they want to support it, they ought to stand up and support it. Yes.
Democrats have begun laying out some of their markers and goals for a CR and what it would take to get their votes, including they'd like to start negotiations, and Congressman Van Hollen wants $38 billion in defense and discretionary spending each. Are you accepting any of this as a starting point? Where do we stand on CR, and have you discussed it with your members?
We started a conversation yesterday with regard to a CR with our members. No decisions have been made. And at some point, there's likely to be some conversation about discretionary funding levels. We're just not at that point yet.
When do you think we'll get there? Because we're running out of time at this point.
At some point.
Just to follow up on that, Senator McConnell insists there won't be any shutdown. Can you make that guarantee? And do you agree with McConnell that you won't be able to defund Planned Parenthood because the president wouldn't sign the bill?
Listen, the goal here is not to shut down the government. The goal is to stop these horrific practices of organizations selling baby parts. So that's the goal here.
Heading, obviously, into a really tough month and more of
Really?
CR and Planned Parenthood, maybe.
That's what I read.
Right. Maybe CR, Planned Parenthood, maybe using the CR to stop implementation of the Iran bill. Who knows? Can you respond to the impression, Mr. Speaker, given yesterday, because Mr. Meadows' resolution is out there, Republican members came back yesterday. You were prepared to go to the floor with a motion, a resolution of disapproval. That got upended. There's the impression with the Meadows resolution that you are not in control right now. Can you?
No, I have widespread support amongst my members. We saw it yesterday. You probably read about the fact yesterday afternoon there was a large standing ovation amongst our members for the fact that I have this job and what I have to put up with to keep it. Yes.
Going back to the Iran deal, you talk about a promise to stall or delay the implementation of the deal. What realistically can you do, and how does that vow, it sort of sounds a little bit like repeal and replace on Obamacare. What realistically can you do, and is it just a sort of symbolic effort at that point?
We're pursuing, frankly, a number of options that, and ideas that members have for what could happen in the weeks to come. And as we continue to investigate those and look into them and see if they're viable or not, I'm sure you'll be well aware of
Do you
it.
imagine something being attached to the spending bill, the CR?
All options are on the table. Yes.
One of those options, you said the president broke the law. Is one of those options some legal action against the administration?
That is an option that is very possible. Yes.
Congressman Robert Pittenger has acknowledged that he's under federal investigation by the FBI. McClatchy has reported that it involves campaign finance. I wanted to ask you, what does leadership know about the investigation? And do you, as Speaker, approve of how he's been handling the investigation?
Mr. Pittenger came to tell me that he was the subject of an investigation some time ago. Beyond that, I know no other facts. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.